Hello and welcome to another of our Fylde Road Coaching podcast. I am William Booth, joined with my co-host Lewis Eaton. Today we have a special guest on the podcast, Cameron Westmorland. He is a member of the football team. He's actually the captain, and he's also a performance analyst at Preston. So we're going to be talking about how a performance analyst can benefit our student union team going forward, and how we can use it within our coaching. So anything else, Lou?
No, we'll just really be delving into what Cam does as a performance analyst, and just seeing like you said, how it's going to benefit. Say if it was in student union, how it benefit our team.
Yeah. So thank you, Cameron, for coming on, for taking the time and coming on the podcast. The use of Microsoft Teams is quite handy, so we can do it remotely. Yeah. So I just want to give you a little introduction about yourself.
Yeah, so my name's Cameron Westmorland, current performance analyst at the Academy, Preston North End. So I work with the under-18s during the week, and I do a bit with the under-9s, the under-16s on the weekend. So I started that last year. I've been doing it ever since. So I think bringing the performance analysis into our team in the Student Union League of Fylde Road, I think it's a great opportunity to obviously allow the performance analysis to take place, and there's lots of key things we can take from the analysis.
Nice. You're also a player for our team as well. You're the captain.
Yeah. There's lots of not responsibility on me, but it's obviously it's a very good environment to play in. That's lots of good lads in the team. We all know each other very well, and it's just a good environment to be in. I think you've highlighted that in your previous podcast as well, about how welcoming you are as a team and stuff like that. And it's just a good environment to be involved in.
Because like you said in the previous podcast, I thank you for listening. I really appreciate it. So we obviously highlighted that being the social connection, the social interaction of bringing everybody together is one of our main goals.
Yeah.
So it's really good you saying this on the podcast and actually highlighting that, and you understand that too. Yeah. Anything else, Lou?
I'd say the most important part that I'd say, you mentioned there, obviously, I'd say thanks for watching the last podcast as well. I'd say the relationship that we have with you just as a friend is really important. But I said it's about building that relationship as well as a coach, isn't it?
Yeah.
And obviously, performance analysis, you'll know how to do that kind of thing, which is trying to take it from that setting of playing football with your mates to kind of more of a serious setting. Obviously, what you do at Preston.
Yeah. Just before we progress on to talking about performance analysts, I was going to ask you one question, Westy. We talked last week how it's difficult for us to go from being a friend to being a coach. Do you see that us changing from a friend to a coach from your point of view?
I mean, when I get in that sort of environment on a Wednesday where we're at the sports arena, I just kind of take you as a coach.
Yeah.
Even though we are dead pally and we obviously live together, I do treat you as a coach, like I'm learning from you. And I always value stuff like you say, but I do get your point about the fact that it's sometimes hard to convert as a coach from coaching your friends and stuff like that. But I think you two at the minute are doing a good job of that, and we're very professional on a Wednesday as well. So there's nothing from a player point of view that I'm seeing as you being favouritism to anyone in the team. It's all equal standards really, and obviously a lot of the lads get equal game time and stuff like that, and we all know how it all works, and we appreciate that from you too, because it's the standard that you're setting, and it's good to see.
Yeah, I'd say that's quite beneficial as well, because if you're saying that and you're our captain, then that shows obviously we're doing something well. Do you know what I mean? So and obviously you're the captain, that's to lead through the whole team. So and I think you're quite a good example of buying into what me and Will are doing, which is really good for us anyway.
100%, yeah. I think you do a really good job at the start of the game by highlighting stuff like, we're going to be rotating every 30-minute, lads. That's the one thing I always remember you guys saying at the start. We're going to be rotating 30 minutes each way. Doesn't matter if we're winning or losing. We're going to give everyone an equal chance, because that's what the Student League's all about, really, isn't it? I think you've highlighted that in previous podcasts as well. But yeah, it's just excellent from you guys at the minute. And obviously, you're quite new to coaching the team. It's only started this year, but it's only promising signs at the minute from my point of view, to be honest.
Yeah. Well, thank you for the kind words. We're going to so we brought you on the podcast today because obviously because you're a player and you're a performance analyst. Obviously, performance analyst isn't really used at that sort of recreational level of a student union, but because of our goals are, like our social interaction and like the social benefits. Do you reckon performance analyst has a place in this sort of student union environment?
I think for sure. I think it's, even though it's more of a relaxed league, I think performance analysis can be incorporated into that and really improve stuff like the player development. And there's lots of research surrounding that kind of thing. So there's stuff being said that performance analysis is a vital component of an athlete's development. And especially one of the things that you guys focus on, as you mentioned, is that athlete development and progressing this. So if, say, for example, you put on a session as a coaches where you got everyone together, you review the footage together and you work as a core unit rather than just you guys focusing on it, I think that develops that social cohesion side of things more than just if you said, right, well, me and Lou have decided that we've seen this on the footage and we're going to implement that into future games and stuff. If you can all come together, say on a day before the game or something, then really bring the side together and get used to that process occurring. And I think there's research from like Groom and Cushing from 2005 that revealed that performance analysis sessions can be a powerful tool when used to raise players' knowledge and understand different aspects of the game. Yeah. And obviously at the minute with what's going on with the coronavirus and stuff, we can't go out. So doing it over Zoom or Microsoft Teams like we are today with the rest of the squad is an excellent way to develop these social aspects that you desire.
Would you say that like it'd be more of a coin flip for you in the sense of you go from quite obviously a high standard at Preston and then you're going from a team which has a mixed ability, so it'd be kind of a coin flip, and I feel that's quite like a positive for you because you're taking yourself out of that like really professional environment into a bit more relaxed, more relaxed environment. But would you say that's probably benefiting you a lot more as well?
Well, obviously at Preston you've got the lads who have been recognised as very talented, who have got the opportunity to potentially take that next step up into professional sport. But I think there's lots of links between the stuff that I do at the academy and stuff that we could potentially do with the student stuff as well. Obviously, I don't think there'd be much difference in like the quality of stuff we can deliver because it's the footage that we're delivering. It's in black and white. No one can argue with the footage. So there's lots of stuff that we can bring into that as well. And obviously, I think one of the kind of aspects that we can bring into the stuff with the Fylde team is like we can bring in like smart targets and stuff like that. So I think smart targets can motivate the athletes or our players to reach them targets and excel. But yeah, there's lots of similarities really, mate. But I don't know what you guys think. Do you think setting smart targets from the use of analysis is a valuable way of increasing motivation, bringing the team together, etc.?
Yeah, well, I feel like there is a lot of research on that at the moment. How these smart goals can actually achieve your confidence, build your your motivation, and all of that. And from a student point of view, I feel like obviously you undertake a lot of stress at university, so just having these smart goals in the weekly, it's just something you can just build up your confidence, and it does reduce stress as well. So yeah, it's definitely something we are looking to incorporate in our coaching going forward.
Yeah.
So that's quite an interesting it's quite an interesting point that because they could just be like short term but long term as well. But I feel like with the student union team, at the moment it's got to be short term, hasn't it? For each week, would you say?
Yeah, because of COVID and all of that, we don't know how long we're going to be interacting with these players. So yeah, I reckon we could have some long term which we can reflect on throughout the season. And obviously, with the use of performance analysts, it's also a great way it's also like a good way to measure these goals as well.
Definitely, yeah, definitely.
Would you say it's as well? I think could be just be about like helping improve us as well as coaches. For example, like training and stuff like that. Like seeing what we're like in training, and then being able to like analyze kind of like obviously that's your gig, isn't it, Cam? So just be like how the session's going kind of thing, or what the strengths are, what the weaknesses are. And it's quite like a good technique to use as well for obviously not as a coach understanding that.
Well, that's what I like. That's what one of the points I kind of was going to bring up about that kind of you can reflect on your own actions within the session. So For example, during your coaching sessions, you might be doing some sort of practices that you aren't quite sure on. But then that analysis allows you to fall back onto watching the footage and looking at your learning styles, your teaching styles, about the way you deliver something. And does that work? What does, how do you engage your participants? What makes them kind of tick and make them work hardest in a session? So there's definitely lots of research surrounding the use of analysis for coaches within a session. Stuff like, there was a study from Franks and Miller from 1986 with the result implying that coaches involved within like a session or something were only able to remember 30 to 50% of key performance events, which I think is quite an alarming stat. So obviously, I think if I was putting myself in the position of a coach, I can remember stuff that's within like the last 5-10 minutes of an action, say if there was a goal. But as a coach, you may not remember stuff that happened the other end of the pitch. So how you can prevent the goal from occurring in the first place. So there's normally like 4 stages that you can prevent it in the first place. So obviously, as coaches, you can look back at the footage and then put in deliberate practices, as I call them, stuff that's actually potent and is relevant to what has occurred in previous weeks. So you brought up a very good point there, Lou, about the fact that analysis can be used effectively for you coaches.
Yeah, I think it as well. It's like it's very important, especially in a student union league. It's like about identifying your weaknesses, really, as well, because obviously we concede a lot of goals, I'd say, but we score them as well. So it's a bit like identifying how to stop conceding goals, really, as well.
Yeah, it's that balance of the two, isn't it? I think there's obviously the ideal thing for you coaches is, I think, looking back at the performance analysis, if you can identify trends. That's one of the things as a performance analysis we look for. So stuff that keep reoccurring. It's obviously not ideal, but if, for example, we're conceding the same goal by the ball coming over the top of the back 4 or getting played through and we're not getting tight enough to men, that trend can actually really be worked on within a session.
Yeah, that's a really interesting point, I think.
Yeah, definitely.
So also, because we're also obviously focusing on that social aspect of playing football, how do you monitor that through your performance analyst? How do you monitor like the social interactions between players and stuff like that?
It's a tricky one, that. How do I monitor the... You've lost us there, Will.
Yeah, to be fair, I know, because you work in an environment which is such an elite level. You obviously focus much on performance, but maybe could it be something just something simple as just watching a player not communicating? Obviously, you can also progress that throughout the season. Like if a player in one game, you can see him being very communicative with his arms, his gestures, his voice, and you can kind of see that through tracking, with footages of the games throughout the season. Yeah. Could you say, like, if it starts to decrease, could you say this is something we could just have a conversation with the player, just say, oh, we've noticed you've dropped in a level of your confidence, you're not communicating as much as you were. Could this be something we could use, Analyst?
Well, definitely, yeah. I think I did like a season-long project on our defensive side of things for the under-18s at Preston last year. Yeah. And one of the things we worked out that we were conceding a lot from set pieces. So then we went away and thought about what could be the reasons for this, and we kind of decided it was maybe the communication side of things, that we weren't potentially marking or get set up early enough. And I think if I was to put, when I play for the side, sometimes you've made me aware that I go quiet in games sometimes. So I think definitely we can use the analysis to potentially work out how I can be more, how I can communicate better with the lads in front of me. Because I think obviously I play centre half, so I play quite a big part in that leadership role and communicating for the players in front of me, because I can see the whole pitch. But I think there's lots of ways we can use the analysis to do all this tactical stuff and stuff like that, and identify how you can be communicating better with your players.
I'd say as well, like they were saying there, I think about trying to find the extroverted, introverted players, knowing which one's which is very important, I think, in the team, because they kind of your triggers. Sometimes your extroverted players are usually your centre midfielder, isn't it? Or maybe your striker or your centre half. and obviously you want your goalie. So it's quite hard to create that balance of extroverted and introverted players. And obviously, I think analysis would help that a lot.
Yeah,
I understanding that.
You'd be able to know which one is extroverts, and I think there's also I don't think this is kind of like comparable, but in that Mourinho documentary, he said about Sissoko being a big influence within the team. That gives me the impression that he's very like communicative on the field. So knowing who's the most most influential players in the team, you could focus on them to drill in your organisational skills, communicational skills, because it probably will translate to the pitch.
Yeah,
I don't think he even needs to inform them of the fact that they're that sort of character. I think it comes naturally.
Yeah,
and you can sort of what to expect from a few lads, because I think there's a few quite good leaders in our team where you know what you're going to get from them and stuff that people do quietly, but they do a good job as well. So then I think the mixture of them different characters within the squad is obviously a vital part to being successful, really.
I think we're quite lucky within our team. I think we have quite a lot of players who are like them, that extrovert role, but we also have some who are, like you said, a bit more quiet than others.
Got that balance.
Yeah, but at the moment, I feel like we're heading in the right direction of creating that environment where everybody feels like, a self of belonging.
Definitely.
And I feel like that's something we've obviously drilled in Lou from the start.
Yeah.
Like Westy mentioned earlier, like he said, it is. Look, it is from his point of view. It does look like we are trying to establish that.
Yeah. Well, that environment that we are creating, I think the balance between extrovert and introverted really helps with well-being and the social interaction of it.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't. If we had too many extroverts, the introverted people who are introverted wouldn't want to be getting involved or wouldn't want to speak. Do you know what I mean? So, but we have too many introverts. It's the same. People wouldn't speak. We wouldn't have that team cohesion like we talked about, or wouldn't be able to build on relationships. So I think we've created a really good balance to start off with as well, and I think looks good.
Yeah, definitely, mate.
Yeah. So just talking. Well, we have the opportunity of you on the podcast, Westmorland or Westy. Like we mentioned about the performance analyst, how they obviously benefit the team, and you recording the games, we can look at that footage. Could you say it also could be used in a end of the season presentation night? Could we use the footage to make this this good video of the season of the best goals, something like that, just for some of the players to take back as as a memory of the club?
I think that's a really valuable point, Will. I think you can obviously, with all the footage you've got, you can sort of put a package together of the successes that we've had throughout the season. So moments of brilliance, say if it was an excellent goal that someone scored in the team, or whether it was a last ditch tackle that saved us winning the game or stuff like that. I think that kind of route could be really beneficial. I think getting everyone together at the end of the season and viewing this package or whatever it may be is a vital way to sort of cap off a season together.
Yeah.
And sort of everything you've worked throughout that season, the social aspects, the cohesion of the side, it all comes together in that one bit where you can sit down, you can have a laugh about stuff that has happened throughout the season, the really good stuff, even some of the bad stuff.
Yeah,
yeah. So if someone misses the ball, misses a sitter, Lewis Eaton or something like that. But yeah, I think that's an excellent point, Booby. I think it's a great way to cap off the end of the season.
Yeah, and you get to see what you accomplished throughout the season. We can reflect it as coaches as well. See, okay, look at our first game compared to our last game. Look how far we've come. Look at everybody getting involved, stuff like that. It's definitely something we'll probably be looking into trying to do, because, like we said, it's just we're such a union team. It's about the social interaction. It's bringing everybody together. It's just ideal.
It's about creating that memory, isn't it? Really. When we used to all play for a different team, we've all created memories of games we've played in, and the most important game stick out for me would be varsity, something like that.
Yeah.
And I think it's about creating that memory for other people to be oh, I played for this team and I had such a good time because of the social interaction or whatever, or my well-being was good because of this.
Yeah, looking back at university, you want to be thinking, oh, look, this is a team I played for. I had such good memories playing for them. It's just something to reflect on when in 10 years' time. Look, when you think about your experiences at university, I was a part of such like a unique group who are, and then we also give them the football tops as well as another bit of memory. So yeah,
definitely.
Would you say there's anything else, Cameron, that like would be important for performance analysis? Like any more points you've got on for this?
Not really. I think I was just going to bring up that last point that Boogie made about individuals getting like pleasure from seeing their own successes and stuff like that. And I think that was my last point really about that stuff. But obviously we've covered that already, and I'm glad we have. But yeah, I think just one more little thing about something you mentioned within your first podcast. I think about your tactics and stuff like that, about how you go about getting your right formations, getting your players in the right positions. And obviously, it's well known that analysis can allow that to happen. So you can look back at the footage and you can highlight, does this player fit in well on the right-hand side, or should he be moving into the midfield or stuff like that? So I think, obviously, analysis can build your tactics and you can become more aware of your teammates and stuff like that. I don't know what you guys think. Obviously, you discussed that a little bit more so in your first podcast, but do you think the tactics side of things is somewhat really important within this team? And do you think that analysis could potentially better your knowledge of this?
I'd say yeah. I'd say because as I think we switched and changed like formations, like even something simple as that every week, and even games like 3 or 4 times a game, like just to try and create like just get something different, see what we're about kind of thing. And I think analysis would help in understanding what system kind of works for us.
Definitely.
I think that's probably, even if it's like even this standard, I'd even say like that would really help for the student unity. It'd probably help for most other teams in the league as well.
Mm-hmm. Sorry, go on.
I also think like at the student union level, like the different levels is like every team's pretty similar in level. Like the better teams are pretty similar in level, but having that better tactical knowledge and better tactical like structure, I think that will benefit your team much more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think one closing comment for me on this scenario is the fact that obviously we want to use our analysis for our benefit, but if we want to improve the league, we could potentially open up this footage to other teams because we want it to be a really competitive league. Obviously, we want to win, but we don't want to be playing games where we win 7, 8, and 11. We want really tight games where every team can sort of review their footage and stuff like that. So by us sort of promoting this side of analysis into this SU league, I think it could be like a turning point for other teams to think, all right, well, Fylde Road are doing this. Could we borrow their footage, or could we even start our own analysis during the game? And it just provides better quality of games, really.
Because there is other teams in the league who are run by football coaching students, so they're bound to have a performance analyst within the team who will definitely be more than keen of doing it. So obviously this podcast is about performance analyst, Lewis. I want to know your point of view of how would you incorporate it? Like, what would be the first steps for you to like?
I think to start with, we should probably get it more involved in kind of training to start with.
Yeah.
I think from our aspect of knowing if the sessions we're putting on are beneficial for the athletes, and like we said there, like Cameron's mentioned about the goals, I think that's quite like really important for short term as well, because it's just for players who, you know what I mean, are just getting involved, who aren't even like kicked the ball. It's about kind of like how they're improving as well, like about like trying to get them to the next level, like not like the next level, but trying to get them to like want to play for the team and like perform, seeing how their performance is going, kind of thing.
Yeah.
I think that's what it's about, analysis. But then I'll probably incorporate it into games. Probably start off with friendlies and then move on from there.
Yeah. I feel like we have some players in the team who haven't really played football that much in the past, so just trying to get them started that journey of starting to begin to like understand the game a bit more will be also one of the starting like goals for us.
Definitely, I think obviously, like Lou said, start off in the training sessions first, just to make sure it's exactly what you want to do. Because there's no point filming a game and then realizing it's not for us. So start off in training, lay the foundations like everything you do in life. Then I think another key aspect is to make sure that everyone's on board with it. Some individuals may not feel comfortable getting filmed, or may not want to. Yeah, so you've got to make sure as a team everyone's on board. It's not like there's 10 on board and there's 3 that don't want to do it. Every single individual in the team has got to want to be involved in the analysis, because that if they don't want to be involved in the analysis, it ruins the point of the whole club, really.
Yeah.
Because we're a welcoming club where we want people to be involved for the right reasons. So that's one of the most essential things that just make you think about just before you incorporate into the team.
I think that's a really good point, to be fair, like bringing that up, because like we could go through all this analysis, but you need to get the players buy-in, don't you, really?
Yeah.
At the end of it. So that's like a really good point you brought up there.
Yeah.
Is there anything else from you guys for today?
No, I'd say we've quite covered all that, to be fair, Cam. Is there anything else you'd like to say, or?
Not really. I just think, obviously, I'm dead passionate about analysis, so I'd love to see it be involved in our team. I think it could take our team so far forward in so many ways, and yeah, hopefully it materialises in this fashion in the future.
Yeah. Well, thank you for coming. Thank you for spending the time and coming on the podcast, Cameron. We really appreciate it.
No worries. Best of luck with the rest of your podcasts and stuff.
No worries. Well, we'll see you soon, hopefully, at training.
No worries. Have a good Christmas.
Yeah, you too. So thanks, guys, for listening to watching another of our coaching podcasts. Please make sure to subscribe to follow us on our journey. Any last comments from you, Lewis?
No, that's fine. All the best, Cam. Have a good Christmas, mate.
Yeah. Have a good Christmas, lads.